For those of you that just witnessed the extra special Mayweather-McGregor boxing for MMA Vivisection depressed us, welcome back. For all those of you who didn't, welcome, I guess, to the MMA Vivisection with me, Zane Simon, co-hosted by Victor Rodriguez and Eddie Mercado, here to talk about Bellator 182, Koreshkov versus Njokuani, this coming Friday. Thank God it's not Saturday. They aren't dumb enough to do the PFL thing of let's counter program one of the biggest fights of the year. But Bellator is coming up this weekend, and it's got it's another one of those kind of weird cards where like there's no one fight that really stands out about it. There's not even a title fight on it. But it's way it's way deeper than most of what they do. It seems like they either only do these like, here are 3 really cool fights and then a bunch of shit you don't care about, or here's like 15 fights that are all pretty good, none of which are like really a main event.
You mean you're not excited for all these Bellator stars? Are you kidding me? This is so much hot fire. I have to wear my solar eclipse glasses, otherwise I go blind.
Oh God!
You keep playing with it, you go blind.
that was beautiful. You know what? That was so much better than I was prepared for.
That's why I'm here, Zane.
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely an awesome card. Like, hardcore fans are going to eat this up. And there has been zero promotion for this fight. It's like Bellator didn't even try. They were like, Floyd and Connor's going on. Let's just not even put any kind of advertising or anything into this.
But put every good fighter that we need to get cage time on the same event.
Yeah, exactly. But good for us. Good for us who are enthusiasts.
Yeah, hopefully they give a little more time to their prelim stream than normal, because I don't know that their normal Bellator sacrifice hour is going to be enough to... Like, this is an 18-fight card. 18!
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of dark bouts.
Yeah. So, jumping up, we're going to hit a few highlights on this undercard before we actually get to the card itself. First off, Talita Nogueira, Amanda Bell. Nogueira being, obviously a notable jiu-jitsu talent who has supposed to have been debuting for Bellator since 2015 and has yet to make her debut.
Yeah, she's been missing a lot of fights, actually. Her last fight was in 2013, and it's been for injuries, weight cut issues. She was supposed to fight Marlis Kunin at Bellator 163, I believe. That didn't pan out. So maybe she'll make it to this fight, maybe not.
Any pick on this fight, Eddie?
Oh, I'll pick whether or not I think she'll make it to the fight, and will say no.
All right. Another cancellation.
Wow.
My cancellation is my prediction.
That's reasonable. I mean, like I said, she's supposed to debut 2 years ago. Vic, your thoughts?
Yeah. Nogueira, obviously, jiu-jitsu phenom. Amanda Bell, who we saw in Invicta, she's had her up and downs, but I don't know, man. She hits hard. Bell is really, really good at switching a fight around very, very quickly with just 1 or 2 shots. So smart money's going to probably have to be on Bell because she's just that much better when it comes to that, and the fight starts standing.
All right. No odds on that. So skipping ahead then, Joey Davis is showing up on here against JT Roswell, top prospect. Joey Davis, great college wrestler. This should be just another setup fight along the way. I don't know that we need to give that any other thought. And then a light heavyweight bout, Felipe Lins versus Vadim Nemkov. And Vic, what are your thoughts on this fight?
I absolutely love this fight. This is so good, man. Look, Lins, a bit of an unheralded guy. He's had a bit of a rough patch in Bellator. Came off a Brazilian circuit, ending his fights in Brazil at Betetti Combat, and then ending up with his first 2 fights in Bellator being wins. Ended up with a loss to Kelly Anderson, which was sort of a freak injury, and then bounced back with a solid finish with strikes against Guilherme Viana at Bellator 159. After that, he lost to Kleber Silva in Brazil in what was a pretty weird occurrence back in December, but he's going to be taking on Vadim Nemkov, who...
Okay, I said like a sentence and a fight pick.
All right. Nemkov, very briefly, Nemkov was in that Rising tournament.
This is definitely Vic's fight of the night right here. This is...
I'm very hyped for this. So, look, Nemkov was in that Rising tournament with King Mo and all them way back. Another underrated talent. Both of these guys, you know, they're not novices. They're not exactly, recent, they're not rookie level prospects, but both of them are very talented. I'm going to go with Nemkov slightly here, even though I don't think his striking is as polished as Linz's is, but this should be a very exciting scrap.
All right, Eddie?
I am also excited, maybe not as excited as Vic is, but I definitely think these guys are going to come out looking to thump, and they are 205-pounders, so definitely worth watching. And who's going to win? Whoever lands first.
All right. Further up the card after that, let's see, we have Colleen Schneider, Kate Jackson. Eddie, any thoughts on that fight?
Which one is this? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's Colleen Schneider, Kate Jackson.
Yeah, actually, Kate Jackson is pretty damn legit, if I do say so myself. She was on The Ultimate Fighter, and she actually fought Joanna Champion. So, I mean, she might actually be the most legit flyweight in the entire Bellator division.
Well, they do have a habit of picking up the pretty first, talent second fighters out there.
Yeah, absolutely. But she comes in with credentials, so who knows? This could be maybe a breakout fight for the Bellator's flyweight division, which I personally enjoy, just for the simple fact that it's so Wild West kind of days of the old UFC, where you don't know what anybody has. It's basically anyone's game at that point. So I'm gonna take Kate Jackson here, just based off of her experience and level of competition.
All right, Vic, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a little worried here. I don't remember. I'm looking here. It seems like the last time the Schneider fought at 125 was way back in 2013. Ever since then, she's been fighting at 135. I don't know how that's going to affect her, or whether or not that's even going to be a factor. But she is more experienced. She's picked things up as of late, and she's done pretty well, save for that that losses she had against Tanya Evinger, but she won all 5 rounds against her, so can't really knock her for that. I'm going to have to go with Schneider on this one. I think she's probably going to be able to see some of the things that Jackson's got coming and work her way out of there.
All right. Moving on, Chris Honeycutt, Kevin Casey, middleweight bout. Vic, thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, this one's going to be ugly as sin. We've seen Kevin Casey be either sluggish with his striking or just have really bad cardio, not able to get his jiu-jitsu going when he's on his back. I mean, it's a shame because he's really got a lot of tools that he, theoretically should be able to employ, but he's not really good at shifting phases to make things work and chain a whole game together. Whereas Honeycutt, mostly a wrestler, but he's got the wrestle boxer archetype. I'm going to probably have to go with Honeycutt because, he definitely seems like the guy who would be most active and have more polished striking. And when things hit the ground, again, I don't really have that much faith in Casey being able to pull things off on the ground. So I got to go with Honeycutt here.
Eddie, your pick?
Kevin Casey is 1, 2, and motherfucking 4 in his last 7 fights. You hear that? 1, 2, and 4? Are you kidding me? How is that even a thing? How is he fighting? How do you have so many no contests and draws? Like, this makes no sense. In fact,
Eddie, you know a guy named Bob Sapp? He still gets work.
No,
okay,
that's a completely
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, you don't count motherfuckers out, man. That's how the sport works.
Bob Sapp isn't getting no contests or draws. He's getting the shit kicked out of him religiously.
If that's what you want to call it, yeah, sure.
All right, so, man, this fight is probably most likely to go to a draw or a no contest. That's probably the most likely outcome here. Both are grapplers. This is probably the best submission grappler that Honeycutt has faced up until this point. But there's just going to be a whole lot of stalling. And Casey, sure, he could get a submission, but I'm really not going to – I'm not going to expect that, and I don't – and I think Casey is actually fundamentally defensive-wise, sound enough on his feet to where he's not going to get taken out by somewhat of a rudimentary striker in Honeycutt. So, man, this is probably going to end in a really boring split decision, and that's really all I have to say about this.
All right. You're not picking anyone to win it? You just
you know what? I actually circled the verses, meaning I didn't pick nobody, but I'm going to pick the draw.
That's a nice side step there. It's a nice side step to go from picking nobody to picking the draw.
I'm picking everybody.
After that, the veteran fight of Ricky Rainey, Mark Stevens. I don't even care about that unless one of you guys is really feeling that right here.
Well, Ricky Rainey is definitely worth checking out. He's a fun action fighter. Check him out.
Who you picking?
Ricky Rainey, for sure.
Okay. Vic?
Yeah, I mean, it's an okay fight, and I'm always down to watch Rainey, so yeah.
All right.
I'll pick him too. Henry
Corrales, Noad Lahat. Vic?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because they're both fighters that are, similarly, they're pretty much the same size, have the same reach. Corrales came in off King of the Cage and had 3 straight losses to Daniel Strauss, Emmanuel Sanchez, and Patricia Freire. They bumped him down in competition and gave him Cody Bollinger. He won that one pretty well with a big finish. I don't know, man. Lahat seems like he's got more of a controlling game that he's able to, cut off angles and uses grappling to keep things where he wants them. So not only that, he's also got the hot hand with 2 straight wins. So I'm going to have to go with Lahat on this one.
All right, Eddie?
I'm taking Corrales here. I think he's more complete of a fighter, even though Lahat might be more dangerous on the ground. He's kind of one-dimensional in that respect. And Corrales showed in his last fight that if he's not fighting Pitbull or Strauss that Emmanuel Sanchez was razor thin, could go either way. He really is a top talent. The way he finished his last fight with those body punches was absolutely just gorgeous. I mean, gorgeous. So I think he has more tools to get the job done. So I'm going to pick Corrales, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the knockout.
All right. After that, a women's featherweight bout, Sinead Kavanagh and Arlene Blencow. Eddie?
It's a fight for sure. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to expect out of this. Kavanagh, she's kind of hit or miss. When I thought she was going to show up, she didn't. And when I thought she wasn't going to show up, she did. So, someone so young, 4-1 in her career, I still don't have a beat on her. I know she has a mean right hand, and she has that SBG Ireland shuffle. Is that enough? I think Blencow, she's not really dangerous. That I can't see Blencow putting Kavanagh in many dangerous situations. And I'm worried about the physicality. I don't know if she'll be physical enough to body Kavanagh. So this might end up being just a decision and probably nothing spectacular. But I'll pick Kavanagh here by decision.
All right. Vic?
Yeah, I'm equally. I'm kind of in the same spot with Eddie here. It's kind of hard to see where Kavanagh really is in her development. I mean, she came in kind of being known for having heavy hands, and she was able to put away her first opponent in Bellator, Katarzyna Sidora, a card that a lot of people didn't really get to see. That was one of the Irish cards. But then that last fight against Yoni Razafiarison, she didn't really seem like she could get things going. And I don't know if it's maybe a case of her already being figured out so early in her career or what. But Blencow could do damage cumulatively, but I don't see this being some sort of a major threat for Kavanagh when it comes to the stand-up game. What I do see, though, is Sinead having a bit of an advantage when it comes to grappling. I think that's going to be a major deciding factor, especially when it comes to pressing against the cage and then setting up submissions on the ground. So I'm actually going to go with Kavanagh here.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving along.
No,
we got too many fights to go through for a Bellator card.
Yeah.
Brings us to Georgi Karakhanyan, Daniel Pineda, our last prelim. And Vic, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Oh man, you know what, man? It's kind of hard for me to go against Georgi. Really, I can't. No matter what happens to him, like he lost that last fight against Emmanuel Sanchez. Prior to that, he had 2 straight wins. you know what, man? He's just so much more complete than Pineda. You know, he's able to use his athleticism as well. I mean, when he's fresh and when he's on point, I don't really see how someone like Pineda can actually end up beating him. And that's not a knock on Pineda. It's just, look, sometimes different fighters have different ceilings. And, you know, Georgie, his ceiling is much higher. So I'm going to go with him on this one.
All right. Eddie?
This is a bad matchup for Pineda. Pineda, he does hit hard and he is scrappy, but the bulk of his wins come by submission. And that is not going to happen against Georgie Karakhanyan. Not going to happen. There's no way. But also, of Pineda's 12 losses, 6 of those have been by submission. And Karakhanyan does not lose by submission. Not only that, Karakhanyan only loses to champions and contenders, and Pineda is neither. So I'm 100% going Karakhanyan here, and I'm taking him by submission.
Yeah, Karakhanyan's thing, you know, I'll speak about this briefly because it took me a while to get a beat on his game. And the thing is he's one of those fighters he's very dangerous in specific areas. And if you have a really good, controlled, really defensively sound game, you can pick Karakhanyan apart, especially with the wrestling game. His wrestling game isn't there. So if you can be a very defensive, controlled fighter who uses the wrestling to control where the fight goes and can hang with him on the feet and not get yourself too open, you can beat him. He doesn't have the complete game to be an elite fighter, but you have to be an elite fighter. And Pineda is too open, and he's kind of a muscle-bound athletic grappler. Like he's a good grappler and likes to grapple athletically, but he gets himself tired doing it. And so it's kind of why you see him. He gets a lot of submission wins. He has a lot of submission losses, and it doesn't match up well for Karakhanyan. You kind of have to be a really complete talent to beat Karakhanyan. So
who are you picking, Zane? Karakhanyan?
I'd pick Karakhanyan, definitely, based on that. I mean, Pineda just doesn't have the right matchup for that fight. That brings us to our main card and a flyweight bout. Bruna Ellen, Veta Arteaga, and Eddie, who are you picking?
I like the division, as I said before. Interesting matchup. Hard to do analysis with such young careers, but fortunately for us, these are Bellator veterans. They're coming up inside the promotion, so there's footage to watch, which is awesome. They have identical records, both 3-1, 1 KO win, 2 decision wins, 1 decision loss. So Bruna Ellen, she swings a bit wild, but she can land her right hand, and she is willing to change levels and get a takedown. Something weird, though, that I did notice about her style is when she's standing, she does this weird thing with her back foot where she digs her toes in the mat to reset. And I'm not just talking like once. I mean, this is every step. Like anytime she resets on the feet, this is what she does. And I just can't figure out what that's about. Like, it looks really bad, and it looks like it hurts. Like, it's the oddest thing. And I have a Dachshund wiener dog, and back in January, his back legs went out. So I took him to the vet, and they were doing these proprioception tests where they would, like, take his back leg and bend it and make him put his weight on his bent paw. And that's to see – so it's your proprioception is how it's basically how all the info is gathered in your tendons and your bones and your joints of where your body is in space. And I'm not sure if she has an issue with that going on or what, but it is something weird, and you should definitely keep an eye on it. And with footwork being such a very important part of combat sports, I have to feel like that's going to get her in trouble somewhere down the line. So it's hard to predict a winner. They're young, but I think I'm going to go with Vita here just because I've seen her in wars. I know she's tough, and that weird digging the toe in the mat thing, it really bothers me and is scaring me off of her. So I'm picking Arteaga.
Interesting. Vic, your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, Arteaga just doesn't give a fuck. She comes forward, she launches bombs, and you know what? As much damage as she takes, I don't really think that Bruna Allen is going to have the kind of striking that'll really put her in any kind of trouble. I think she's going to be able to Homer Simpson her way through and, you know, take the damage that's necessary, but really make sure that for every 5 shots she eats, she gets at least 2 in. It really make that count. Not only that, but she really runs a pretty frenetic pace for most of the fight. So I don't know if Ellen's going to be able to keep up. I'm going to go with Veda Arteaga, probably a late TKO, but most likely a decision.
All right, odds on that fight. Ellen is the underdog, opening at -1 or +185 and dropping down to +158. And she's more or less stayed even there now, +152. And Arteaga is the favorite, opening at -265, adjusting up to -192, now at -185, staying pretty stable.
They seem right to me.
Yeah. All right. That brings us to a featherweight bout. AJ McKee Jr., Blair Tuchman. Vic, what are your thoughts?
I love this one too. Tuchman is currently 5-1 in his Bellator run, and most of his professional wins are by submission.
5-2, actually.
I'm sorry, no, you're right. Yeah, 5-2. The thing with Tuchman is, man, you know, he is more of a slower starter, and McKee's just been on such a tear. I mean, his wrestling game is on point. He's really sneaky when it comes to chaining his takedowns into submissions. He doesn't really waste any time going from one thing to the next. And it really seems like everything that he's, you know, all the things that he's been good at, he's been just sharpening his tools ever since he started as a professional. I know there are some qualms as to whether or not he's being brought along too slowly or not. I think this is actually a good test to see where he's at. And this won't be easy. You know, Tuchman's not going to be an easy guy for him to put away, but if he's able to do so and makes it look easy, then he should be getting a considerable bump up in competition. So I'm actually going to go with AJ McKee here, most likely by submission as well.
And Eddie, what are your thoughts on the fight?
I'm excited for this. I don't think they're bringing McKee along too slowly at all. I think this is appropriate, especially this one here. This is a solid test of a wrestler, a Division I wrestler, no less, a guy that's built. I mean, he has no neck, a guy that's going to try to close the distance and get the fight to the ground. And someone who can get the fight to the ground and might not necessarily be exceptionally dangerous once it gets there. You know, there's a lot of holding going on. Tuchman has 0 knockouts. So, you know, that threat really isn't there. So the question for me is, can Tuchman close the distance without getting lit up on the feet? And if he can, then what? Because AJ McKee scrambles like he's been doing this shit his entire life. And that's because he's been doing this shit his entire life. You know, it's very rare that you're going to see AJ McKee get controlled for any extended period of time. He's too good of a scrambler. So I just don't see any avenues for Tuchman to win this. I really don't. AJ McKee is way more dynamic and has way more tools and options to get the job done. So for me, what I want to see is some cage generalship. I want to see McKee dictate the pace, dictate where this fight takes place, instead of just one crazy mad dash scramble that he usually gets in. So I want to see if he can control someone who's trying to take him down and really just kind of come into his own. He's a crazy, awesome talent. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he thwarts a takedown and finds top position and does a lot of damage from there. So I'm going to pick AJ McKee here, and I think he'll probably get a submission, maybe rounds 2 or 3.
He is currently, to your point about not seeing a way for Tuchman to win, he let's see, he opened at -705 and is currently riding out at -1314.
Oh man!
Wow, I thought the odds would. I would have thought they would have come slightly closer, not
Gamblers are seeing AJ McKee is a much more sure thing bet than Floyd Mayweather this weekend.
I don't disagree with that.
Well, I mean, that says more about the people who believe in Conor McGregor, but that's another conversation.
And Blair Tuchman opened at plus 435, is now up to plus 820. So,
I mean, Tuchman still is not a good bet just because he's not dangerous. You know, he has 0 knockouts. I just can't see it. And don't bet on McKee either. Is there other prop bets or anything?
Prop bets on this, yeah, several. So let's see. Fight goes to decision plus 280. McKee inside the distance minus 305. Tuchman inside the distance is plus 1265. Tuchman what?
McKee inside the distance is the most reasonable. But the funniest thing is, you said, what did he open at, McKee? Minus 700 or something?
Yep.
Someone saw those odds and were like, fuck yeah, minus 700.
Yep.
Let's empty
a lot
the
of people
bank
saw
account.
those odds. Like, we thought enough to push him out to to minus 1300.
That's insane. That's absolutely crazy.
McKee, let's see. McKee by decision is plus 328. And McKee points handicap minus 3.5 is minus 1050. And plus 3.5 is plus 550.
If he goes to a decision.
That is.
Yeah.
Oh, God. That's nuttier than a squirrel's calling.
Damn, dude. McKee, scorecards no action, is minus 2,090. That is crazy. How is that a thing?
I don't know.
Oh, my God. This is the strangest timeline.
All right.
God.
That brings us to our co-main event now, a catchweight between welterweight and middleweight bout between Brennan Ward and Fernando Gonzalez. Eddie,
why is this a catchweight?
Maybe Ward didn't want to drop again. I don't know. Maybe he was having trouble dropping.
Maybe Gonzalez missed weight again.
Yeah, Gonzalez.
That's what happened in his last fight with Brandon Gertz. He couldn't make the weight, so they ended up doing a catchweight.
Wait, this is in California? This bout? No, it's in. Okay, it's in New York.
It has to. It has to be something like that. It has to be. This is Gonzalez is coming off back-to-back disappointments in my eyes. He put up that lackluster showing with MVP just as I was, getting high on his style, and then he missed weight against Brandon Gertz and didn't really. For being the much bigger fighter, he didn't really impose his will like he probably should have. And not only that, but in the Gertz fight, he got taken down a bunch. And he got taken down a bunch by the smaller man. And yes, he was able to get back to his feet, but he's still getting taken down by a smaller dude and someone that he knows is trying to take him down, and he still couldn't stop that. So what is he going to do against a good-sized welterweight or a good-sized catchweight 178er in Brennan Ward, who, on top of throwing his hands with authority, can also switch in a takedown? So I don't think Gonzalez is dangerous enough anywhere to finish Ward. Outside of, some guillotine submission off of a botched takedown, which Gonzalez is known to do. I gotta take Ward by TKO here, and I'll pick it in a second.
All right, Vic, what are your thoughts?
You know what? Here's the thing with that. I don't really see how. Okay, now Gonzalez. First off, starting with Ward, he's coming off that monster knockout loss at the hands of Paul Daly with that flying knee back in January. Makes me kind of wonder where he's at in terms of being able to take a hit or two. And Gonzalez can hit pretty hard. I mean, he's not knocking everybody out. Most of his wins in the last few years have been by decision in one way or another. Problem I'm seeing is he's being taken down by smaller dudes, as Eddie said. It seems like his thing is he's much more dependent on muscling his way out of certain situations. And when you get a guy who's got better technique and in the grappling department, that's exactly where he's going to be, he's going to falter there.
And more power.
At that point. And then when it comes to striking power, you know, I mean, the guy can take a shot, but, you know, it's a weird thing because Gonzalez is really good at setting up certain hand traps and, you know, using his hand speed, but it seems to me that guys kind of start figuring out his rhythm, and then, you know, the usual 3-4 combinations that he's likely to throw, you know, guys kind of know what to look out for after a while, and then it just doesn't really get to be anything too complicated. So if that's going to be the case, I don't know if I can really trust Ward's chin, man. I don't know. I don't know if I can trust his fight IQ. I think he's probably a guy who, you know, Ward is, if Ward is using his wrestling from the outset, he's definitely going to be more likely to find success. What I do find difficult, though, is him hanging in there long enough. I mean, if he tries to just strike with Gonzalez, he's going to have a much higher likelihood of getting his legs put out again, or at least, you know, catching a few really, really heavy shots that he'd much rather not deal with. Shit. You know what? I'm going to go with Gonzalez. I kind of think that, you know, even with all the things that I mentioned, the judges seem to like his style. It seems to be working in his favor, and maybe, just maybe, Ward is going to have one or two brain farts that'll cost him here. And it just, I don't know. I just kind of like his possibilities of controlling and ending up winning some scorecards.
Hold on, Vic, real quick. Hold on, sorry. Vic, did you just say Brennan Ward is going to the scorecards?
No. I said Gonzalez's. Hey, it's possible, dude.
Never mind.
I'm not afraid. I am not afraid to show my ass and be wrong. I mean, I'm just saying, look, I got a hunch that this guy with his style, look, there's a reason why he's winning some of these ugly-ass split decisions, all right? He's doing certain things in there against his opponents, and Brennan Ward looks like a guy who's right for that sort of thing, and he'll be able to exploit it. That's just kind of how it is.
There's also a reason why Brennan Ward doesn't go to decisions.
Yeah, this is also very true.
For better or worse. Yeah. And like you were saying about the fight IQ, the FIQ, in the Paul Daly fight, he let Paul Daly up. He got him down and let him up.
I rest my fucking case.
All right, guys. Odds on this are basically dead even. Brennan Ward opened at -140, adjusted up to -102, adjusted back down to -124, adjusted back up to -108, and it stayed pretty much there since then. He's at now -109. So
I don't think Ward is a bad bet here. The cause for concern is, has he even woken up from that flying knee back in January?
Fernando Gonzalez, he opened at +100, adjusted down to -132, adjusted up to -104, and is now at -115.
That's why it's a catchweight fight. They just rolled Brennan Ward out of bed last week. Hey, you got a fucking fight. What?
That could be.
That could be it. All right. On that note, then, we have our main event, Andre Koreshkov, Chidi Njokuani, and Vic. Talk me through it.
Chidi Njokuani, pride of the Nigerian Texan community. Undefeated thus far in Bellator in, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4 fights thus far. Last fight was a unanimous decision win against Melvin Gillard back in January as well. Very dynamic Muay Thai style, very athletic, very good at closing the distance and sort of, you know, setting up his in and out, you know, timing his opponent really well. Also very good at using his feints to, you know, keep his opponent on their back foot. Andre Koreshkov is coming off that brutal loss to Douglas Lima. Lovely fight, but unfortunately one of those awesome fights that nobody really got to see because it was out in Israel on a time delay. This was back in November of last year. So I got to wonder how he recovered from that, man. I don't know. Maybe, just maybe, Njokuani might be a little too fast and he might be a little too tricky, but Koreshkov is not a slouch. You know, I mean, he's a guy who's able to not just Koreshkov has that FIQ. He's a smart guy. He can take a hit. It just takes a special kind of guy to really put the guy down. But as we saw, you know, the first time he fought Douglas Lima back in 2015, he whipped out the wrestling for that one. You know, he was able to surprise him on that and start controlling the fight that way. And I don't know, maybe he might be able to use some of his grappling offensively to throw Njokuani off and start controlling the fight from there. So it's going to be a lot harder for him to throw elbows and shit off his back. I kind I kind of start to worry if maybe this is where we start to see Njokuani's ceiling, although, you know, he's, again, Koreshkov, not exactly a world-class grappler. It doesn't have to be in order for him to get the advantage here or use his grappling to his advantage. I'm going to say we're going to see some really, really, really good striking until eventually it just turns into a more grinding fight and Koreshkov ends up winning the decision.
All right. Eddie, who are you picking?
All right. Interesting fight. Njokuani, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with him. You know, before he got to Bellator, he really just bothered me with his style. He would always get his back pinned up against the cage, and it just really bothered the shit out of me. But as of late, since he came into Bellator, you know, he's won 7 straight, 4-0 in Bellator. His last loss was actually Jeremy Kimball, who's in the UFC, and that was in 2013. So the dude has not been losing. He hasn't exactly been fighting world beaters necessarily. The most notable win has to be Melvin Guillard, or in recent history, or the shell of Melvin Guillard. And even then, Melvin was able to put him on his back early on, albeit briefly. You know, Chitty, his striking is – I used to see him as gun-shy, but as of late, he's really – he's so much of a sharpshooter that sometimes that prevents him from pulling the trigger. But when he does, I mean, he goes all in, and he's dropping people with solo strikes. We saw him – he's dropping guys with body kicks. He's dropping guys with fucking jabs. Like, you know, you're dropping people with jabs. You definitely have the power. You know, we saw that with Anderson Silva. So he can strike. Njokuani is dangerous. Is he dangerous enough? Actually, you know what? The most dangerous part of Njokuani's game that no one talks about is his ground and pound. The way he finishes his fights. Once he has you hurt, his ground and pound is vicious. Like he rarely gives guys a chance to recover. And that's kind of how Koreshkov gets taken out. You know, he can ground and pound while he's on his back. You know, Lima did drop him with the bolo, but, you know, but still.
Yeah, Lima's Lima.
Lima is Lima. And Koreshkov has only lost to Douglas Lima and Ben Askren. No shame in losing to either of those guys. And Koreshkov has power in his jab also. He knocked out Marius Zaromskis with the jab, if I remember correctly. So both guys are capable on the feet, knockout power in various limbs. However, despite the rangy strikers, I think this fight is really going to take place in the clinch. As much as I don't want it to. I think Koreshkov is a very, very smart, intelligent, strategic fighter. And I think he knows damn well that he can go in there and big brother the little brother of Anthony Njokuani. And that's exactly what I'm expecting to happen. Koreshkov to close the distance, put Njokuani on the fence, maybe not get the takedown, and ultimately picking up the decision here. So I'm taking Andrei Koreshkov. I think he is just more aggressive than Njokuani and more willing to just make this not a striking bout. So Koreshkov.
Koreshkov is the favorite. He opened at minus 285, adjusted up and down to minus 330, and was sitting pretty firm there up until yesterday maybe, when he jumped up to minus 303. So it looks like some late money coming in on Njokuani.
At plus 250, I mean, that doesn't sound too bad. Anything under than that.
He's minus 303 at the moment. He was minus 330, jumped up to minus 303 just in the last 24 hours.
I don't think maybe a prop. Is there an over?
Over 2.5 rounds is minus 175.
And what's the decision? Goes to decision.
Decision is minus 155. Koreshkov by decision is plus 106.
Ooh, that might be the bet. Koreshkov by decision at plus odds.
Yeah.
Njokuani
is the underdog, opened at plus 205 and adjusted up to plus 260, and is been riding pretty firmly there, slowly dropping down until the last 24 hours, and it went from 256 to 238.
And you know what? It might be smart to not bet on this because both of these guys have only lost by finish.
Yeah.
So that kind of just makes me want to stay away from that altogether.
Mm-hmm.
This card really altogether, there's not many fights worth betting on.
Yeah.
Which is weird because there's a lot of really decent fights here worth watching. But again, it's buried, and you know.
Well, there's the fights there. You know, there are a lot of good fights, and but there's not any of those like one really huge highlight, or you know, 2 or 3 big highlight fights where you're like, oh, that's a main event. Like Koreshkov and Njokuani, it's a good fight. If there were a bigger fight on top of it, it would make it like a good co-main for Bellator.
Or someone else in the position of Njokuani.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Njokuani's pretty unknown still at this point. It's a card that's top to bottom good without having any really one like must-see moment.
It's the Sunday without the cherry on top.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, let's wrap things up. You can find me on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. You can find Vic on Twitter at Vic M. Rodriguez. You can find Eddie on Twitter at TheEddieMercado. You can find all 3 of us over at BloodyElbow.com. Give our videos a like over on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com, DOTCOM.
Real quick, Zane, for the viewers, if you're a fan and you like our content, please whitelist us on your ad blocker. It really helps out a lot, and tell your friends to do the same. It helps keep this content free and regular.
Very true. We don't ask you to pay a dime for us. I certainly would never ask you to pay money for me. But if you can get me money one way or another, then you should. On that note, we will be back. I will be back for a 13th round after Mayweather-McGregor, working with Scott Christ over at Bad Left Hook. And then we'll be back next week for UFC Rotterdam, Volkov versus Struve, and all our normal shows there. Care Don't Care If I Did It, Heavy Hands, Vivisection, Knuckle Up, all that good stuff. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.